Hey guys, Gradysmom here with volume 10 of the cooking series. This is sort of a comfort food soup, if you will. It's just a soup that I really like. It's really hearty, it's comforting, and even though it's 90 degrees outside, I am still going to make it because I've been feeling a little bit under the weather this week. So my mom made this soup when I was growing up, but she used a ham bone. Like when she would make a whole ham dinner, she would save all the bones and the extra meat and make the soup from the bones, which is obviously going to be more flavorful. I don't really cook a lot of whole hams, so I have a ham steak here. It's a good size. This is a 12-ounce ham steak, and it's just sort of like a smoked, hickory smoked boneless one. So I'm going to use that as the base for the meat. I'm also going to use a small yellow or white cooking onion. I'm going to use a couple bay leaves, which I'm going to remove at the end. I'm going to use some tortellini. I have some frozen tortellini here. I believe this is just a spinach and cheese tortellini. It's just left over. My mom sometimes would throw tortellini in, sometimes she'd put pasta or rice, but you just need a very small amount. This is just a traditional sort of Ziploc sandwich size bag. So again, it's just frozen tortellini I'm going to throw in to use it up. I have some peas. I'm going to use about half of this bag. I'm going to use 2 celery stalks. I'm going to use about 1 cup of cut up carrots. I have some frozen corn that I've been working my way through using. This was a huge 2-pound bag, so I'll probably use about a cup of this. I'm going to use about maybe 2 to 3 cups of kale, which sounds like a lot, but it's really not once it wilts down. I'm going to use a can of the white kidney beans, just the cannellini beans. I'm going to need some olive oil to saute the veggies up in, and then a big 48-ounce carton of chicken broth to make this. And this will be plenty of soup. I'm probably going to freeze half. And if I don't freeze half, it'll make 2 dinners for my husband and I. We usually have about 2 bowls each. So I'm going to go ahead and get my veggies prepped, get the ham prepped, and get everything sauteing up in the big pot. Okay guys, so I have my cutting board set up with my knife, and I'm going to go ahead and get the celery, the carrots, and the ham cut up for the soup. So I'm just going to use 2 of these stalks. That. I'm just going to give them a quick rinse. Just going to cut the white part off and then slice up the rest. I'm not going to do them too fine because I like them a little bit on the chunky side, but you're going to want to cut them all around the same size. Just kind of separate them a little bit. So I have a plate behind the camera, so you guys can't see the plate, that I'm going to set all of the prepped veggies on. I think I'm actually going to do a 3rd one because those were really small. So I'm going to do a 3rd one. If they're normal size stalks, then just stick with 2. But that one was pretty. Those 2 were pretty small. I'm just going to do a 3rd one really quick. And again, these are going on that plate. Next, I have my crinkle cut carrots. These are already washed and they're sliced. I'm going to do about a cup's worth. I'm just going to take them, I stack them up. I don't always get the crinkle cut, but I'm just going to stack up the little piles just to make it a little bit quicker to prep them. And then just kind of use your judgment to cut them all down to around the same size. Some of these are already in piles already. So just kind of cut them down a little bit so they're not too big. And then pull out anything like that if there's like a piece of a stem. So just a rough chop, nothing too precise. So it's the carrots, adding to the plate of the celery that's cut. Next I'm going to do the ham. I'm going to do the onion last because my eyes have a sensitivity to the onion, which a lot of people do, where I'm told, a lot of people say the onion makes their eyes sting or tear up. So I'm just gonna save the onion for last. So I'm just gonna cut these in strips. I just laid the two halves on top of each other just to cut down on my cutting time. There's not that much knife work for this soup, which is nice because, as you guys know, some soups take quite a bit of knife work, which can be time consuming. So, it looks pretty good. I'm just gonna sort of separate the cubes so none are sticking together. I'm gonna go ahead now and grab that plate that's out of view and add the meat right to the side. I am gonna keep it separate though from the veggies for now because I'm gonna saute the veggies first. So I'm just gonna put this meat on one side. Okay. Lastly, I'm just going to grab my onion. This is just a small onion. I'm not going to use a big one. Just going to remove the skin off each half. And then I'm just going to go ahead and slice this up. And then just cut it a little bit smaller, nothing too precise. Just separate that. I'm adding that to the pile of the carrots and the celery. Same thing with this half. Okay. And there we go. Okay guys, so under 5 minutes, I'm looking at my camera now, under 5 minutes this took me to get this stuff prepped. I'm gonna go ahead now and get my pan heating up and give these veggies a nice saute. So I'll show you guys how to do that. Okay guys, so I have a large soup pot here that I have just some extra virgin olive oil in, right here. And pretty good amount, and I'm just gonna swirl it around the pan because I'm gonna be putting the veggies in here. So I have it on like medium high. So I have my plate of veggies. We'll go ahead and get them in. I'm going to add some peas. So I'm not going to add the meat just yet. So we have veggies, and then I have my bag of peas here. I'm going to add another small handful of those right here. I'm going to do the same thing now with that bag of frozen corn that I showed you guys. Which is your standard yellow frozen corn. Just gonna throw in maybe a little under a cup, give or take. Looks about right. Okay. Lift up. Let me grab a spoon. And give it a stir. I'm going to throw in a generous amount of salt and pepper. Not too generous because the ham does have salt. So I did go a little bit lighter on the salt than I would for a different meat, a non-salted meat. I'm just going to give that one quick toss with the salt and pepper. Make sure it's nice and spread out. And I'm just going to let this work for maybe 5 minutes and show you guys what it looks like before we throw anything else in. Okay guys, so about 5 minutes have elapsed. A lot of the oil has dissolved into the veggies. I can't get too close, but they're just starting to get translucent, a little bit soft and a little bit brown on the edges. So I forgot to mention in the beginning, you're going to need garlic powder and parsley flakes. I have my bay leaf here. So the first thing I did was I lowered the heat. It was on medium-high. I lowered it to medium. I'm going to go ahead now and I'm going to get my chicken broth in. Actually, correction, I'm going to get my ham in there. The ham is fully cooked. So I put my ham in, and now I'm going to do my chicken broth. I'm gonna add about half to start. Okay, and then I'm gonna turn the heat back up to high because we wanna bring this to a boil. I'm just gonna stir this really quick. Again, I turned my heat up. And then I'm gonna grab my bay leaves. I'm gonna throw in a small and a large bay leaf. I'm gonna throw in my garlic powder now. You're definitely gonna wanna make sure you're using garlic powder and not garlic salt. So I'm gonna do, I don't know, a few nice shakes of the garlic powder. And then I'm gonna do some parsley flakes now. I'm gonna do, again, a few nice shakes of parsley. Okay, next I'm gonna grab my beans. So these are my white kidney beans, guys, that I drained and rinsed really well out of the can. Again, heat is on high. I'm just gonna gently fold everything together. Now, if you're not going to add anything else to this, if you're not gonna add a starch like the tortellini or pasta or rice or potato, you could go ahead and just get away with this amount of broth. It would be nice and hearty just like this. I am going to add the kale and the tortellini, so I'm going to need the rest of that broth. So I'm going to go ahead now and add it all. This is a 48-ounce carton is what I'm using. Again, because I'm throwing in the tortellini and the kale, and I plan to possibly freeze a batch of this. We will see. Sometimes I want to freeze a soup and then we end up just eating it all. So that is the whole 48 ounces in here. So now what we're going to do is bring this to a boil. Once it comes to a boil, I'm going to reduce the heat down to kind of between low and medium. So not quite medium, but a little bit higher than low. I'm going to cover it and let it simmer away for about an hour and it will be done. But about 10 minutes before the hour is up, I'm going to throw in my tortellini to cook. And the final couple minutes, I will throw in my kale, which will dissolve nicely and kind of wilt down. So we're just going to bring this to a boil now, and I'll show you guys what it should look like before you put the lid on it and turn the heat down. Okay, so we've got a nice rolling boil like that where it's nice and bubbling. So I'm going to take the heat and turn it from high down to a little bit under medium. I'm going to go ahead and put my lid on and let it go for about a half an hour. I will stir it after a half hour and then let it go for another 15 minutes or so. Add my tortellini, and lastly I'll add the kale. So I'll be back with you guys right before we add the tortellini in about 45 minutes. Okay guys, so I'm taking the top off here. And about 40 minutes have gone by. I stirred it a couple times. And I'm just going to go ahead now and remove the 2 bay leaves, because we don't want to eat those. They're just for flavor. So I'm going to take the bay leaves out. I'm going to go ahead now and turn the heat back up, and I'm going to get this little bit of tortellini right into the soup. And this doesn't take long at all. The tortellini does not take long. Maybe 10 minutes tops. So I'm going to go ahead. I'm going to put the lid back on. Let the tortellini go, and then next and last step, we'll be adding this kale, about 2.5 cups, which is going to wilt down to about nothing. So I'll put this in at the very end and plate it up. Probably put a little Parmesan cheese on top, and I'll show you guys how delicious it looks. And it was so easy, as you guys saw. It's a great comfort food, and it's just, I love soup all year long. So I'm gonna let this go and be back in a little while to show you what it looks like. Okay guys, so these actually only took about 5 minutes. I can tell because they are puffy now. I don't know if you guys can see how much they've puffed up. So I don't want to overcook them. So I'm going to go ahead now. I turned my heat back down to medium, and I'm going to get my kale right on top. Always is going to look like a lot. Keep my heat on medium. I'm going to go ahead and kind of fold this in, and it will get down to wilting. It'll wilt very quickly. And all I'm going to do now is just bring this back up to a boil. Once it hits boil, it's done. So I'm just going to fold this in gently. I love the nice pop of green freshness it gives the look of this soup. Smelling good. and super comforting because I'm still feeling a bit under the weather, and it freezes really well. Although I think I have a feeling I'll be eating leftovers of this for lunches since Grady goes to school all week. So I'm just gonna bring it back up to a boil and then we'll plate it up and it's gonna be all done, ready to go. Okay guys, so the soup is looking beautiful. It's all done. I turned off the heat. I'm gonna grab a nice big bowl, one of my new Pioneer Woman bowls, and a ladle. I'm gonna go ahead and get a nice bowl of this plated up. And this is just going to hit the spot for me because it's just soup for some reason is just so comforting to me. I just love it. Okay, so I have my nice bowl right here. Yum yum, I'm gonna get some Parmesan cheese. I'm also doing some grilled cheese sandwiches on the side. I like to dip grilled cheese in soup sometimes, just kind of in the mood for it. Let me go ahead and grab my cheese and I'll be right back. Okay guys, so here it is. I put some nice Parmesan cheese on top. I love how all the veggies and the ham and everything just works nicely together. The beans make it nice and hearty. Can't get too close. And see those nice puffy tortellinis are nice and soft. They have spinach and cheese inside of them. Obviously, if you don't have tortellini, you can add rice or pasta or orzo, maybe some cut up potatoes. But it's just such a nice comfort food. And as you can see, I have a whole bunch. So we'll have probably a bowl and a half each, and then we're gonna have a grilled cheese as well. I'm gonna flip this over and let the other side get a little bit toastier, and just a really nice comforting dinner. So I hope you guys enjoyed this cooking series, volume 10. Have a great day, and I will see you guys all very soon. Bye.